The Celtic Exchange, a fresh insight on Celtic Football Club.
Ross County arrived at Celtic Park on Saturday as one of the informed sides in the league, but a hat-trick from one of the informed players ensured they left Glasgow with nothing as a Giorgos Giakoumakis inspired Celtic ran out 4-0 winners on the day. We now head into the first international break of the year, having extended our domestic unbeaten streak to 31 games, and if Celtic can pick up this kind of form once they return, then we should end the season in a pretty good place. This is episode 62 of the Celtic Exchange Weekly. This is Tino, and this week I'm joined by Mif and Paddy to cover all things Celtic. Mif, Celtic continue to rack up the wins. How are you feeling with just 7 league games left?
Hello Tino, hello Paddy, hello guys. Feeling good, to be honest with you. Absolutely delighted at the form we've been shown, and I think more importantly an upturn in the performance levels as well. Players coming back to form, most notable I think being Jota in terms of his creativity, and Giakoumakis getting the goals that his performances up to now have probably merited. So all in all, feeling really good.
Nice one. Paddy, you were there at the game obviously, and you spoke to Ange and Carol Starfelt after the game. Were they in decent form?
Just again, there wasn't a huge deal of like taking their mind away from what's still to come. They were still fairly focused in what's lying ahead for us. So it was good just kind of listening to them, and a lot of the other questions that were getting asked. The answers were very good. Someone asked about the potential of obviously the treble, and they just all kind of seem fairly grounded on that, and kind of what we've been talking about, this one game at a time approach seems to be at the forefront of everything. So no, it's refreshing to see them focused the way they seem to be.
Yeah, we'll get to it a wee bit later on agenda wise, but Starfelt's been called back into the Sweden squad, which is a big plus for him. Did you ask him about that directly? Was that your question?
I did. I basically, when we were lucky enough to get to speak to him at the beginning of the season, one of the questions I'd asked was how he felt about the opportunity of possibly getting back into the team via playing with Celtic. And now one of the things that he did go on about and say about actually getting that call up was, it's coming off the back of learning to deal with the pressure of playing with us. And I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're mates now?
Best mates. I'm going to Sweden. I'm not.
Heading over. So what we'll do, let's focus first of all on that win v Ross County. There's several talking points, we'll get to them all, but let's start with the man informed, Giorgos Giakoumakis. So if you're a man for your stats, I'm going to give you some.
Bring it on.
12 goals for Celtic, all one-touch finishes. That's been become a cliche, isn't it? That's his thing, all one-touch finishes, penalty box predator, all that kind of stuff. 11 of those goals have come in 2022. 8 of them are in his last 3 domestic starts, so that's against Ross County, Dundee United and Dundee. On the back of that, he has now been recalled to the Greek national team for their friendlies. They play Romania and Montenegro in the next week or so, and he'll be looking to add to the 6 caps and 1 goal that he already has. I read a very interesting thing, Paddy, in The Athletic. Again, it seems that I just read The Athletic and then regurgitate it here, but read a good article about how Ange has actually tweaked his system recently not to accommodate Giakoumakis, but to get the best out of him. Mm-hmm. So basically, there's various other stats doing the rounds, and they're not all good, but they're interesting. So he's got the worst passing accuracy of any player on the Celtic side at this moment in time, 74%. And he's recorded the fewest passes in 90 minutes at 10 passes in 90 minutes of any Celtic player this season. However, Ange has recognised this and he's tweaked the formation and the system accordingly. He's now asked him not to get involved in the build-up play, or it seems that way anyway. He's no longer dropping short, he's no longer trying to play 1-2s, he's no longer doing this back-to-goal thing. And all he's doing, and doing it very well, is positioning himself between the posts and getting in really strong positions. If you have a chance to look at the article, it shows you some kind of screen grabs as well, and it shows you exactly that. There was a great passage of play that you'll have clocked from the first half where Maeda's done a couple of back heel flicks, Hatate's found him in the box, he's flicked it back off to O'Reilly, he's clipped it just by the post. It was a brilliant move, really effective, and it would have been a brilliant goal had we finished it. If you clock Giakoumakis at the time, however, he doesn't go anywhere near it.
Yeah.
All he does is stay between the posts and position himself. I think it's Jakavite is the big number 16 for Ross County, and he just stays on his shoulder all the while. And as soon as O'Reilly clips the shot away, even though it's just by the post, he's ready for anything the keeper may or may not spill. And you can see the impact, Paddy, in these last few games with the returns he's bringing.
Absolutely. With the goals that he's kind of been scoring, it's something that we've noticed about him since he signed. he loves a near post run, but also the first goal the other day, just the leap was unreal, you know, and it's just being committed to that area. One thing you're mentioning though about just kind of pulling, not wanting to get involved with all the basically the build up play towards outside the box, anything like that. I actually thought he'd done okay with that. See the games like in January, like the games against like Hearts especially.
Rangers.
I thought he ragdolled them. I thought there is probably still a part for that to play, but maybe against teams where he is going to be more suited to be playing off the shoulder, that works. But especially against Hearts, I thought who's that?
Suter.
Suter had no chance against him.
I think there'll be games where we need him to hold it up, but probably at Celtic Park against multiple defenders isn't one of them.
I think it's a needs must kind of thing. So we've seen him do it at times when required. I think it was a European game where he done it as well. When you need to go and run down the clock, when you're holding on to a narrow win, he's a man for that as well. But I think just in its simplest form, Ange now isn't asking to do things that he's just not very good at, and it's just playing to your strengths. You know, he's got Maeda doing his thing, he's got Jota doing his thing, and Giakoumakis focuses on what he's good at. The first goal epitomises it. So you see it, it's very clever again. Maeda makes that run at the front post. It makes the space, you've got your strikers crossing over, and he gets right to the back post, and the leap is exceptional. I think it's a brilliant goal. I think it's been given enough credit.
Absolutely. It's a typical big forwards goal, but he just makes it, don't know, it's a very, very good cross in, and he makes it just seem very easy just to direct it. It was a great finish.
As much as I loved the first goal, I actually preferred the second for Maeda's knockdown, I need to say, which I know we'll go into in a bit more depth, but I was absolutely... There's been wee flashes of what they could look like as a partnership in several games this year, and that understanding just seems to be growing. I know it's a very obvious thing to say now after the event, but it does seem to be growing, and I think we have touched on it before. When I think it was a game at Motherwell, there was a few times when Giakoumakis was that focal point up front, Maeda's pace coming off the left, and what the thought that I had in my head after watching the game Saturday was the potential for maybe even Kyogo on the right.
I mean, it'll remain to be seen what he does with Kyogo coming back, but we've seen him experiment with Kyogo in wide positions. The last time he played against Rangers, it did not work at all, and I've been very loath to see Kyogo moved anywhere out with the centre. Listen, we've not had that problem so far with Maeda, Kyogo, Giakoumakis, Jota, even Forrest, Abada, all available. So we'll find out soon enough, touch wood, when Kyogo comes back. But it will be, it's a great problem to have and all that kind of stuff, but it'll be very interesting to see what Ange actually goes with.
What I thought was very interesting, and just kind of going back to that game against Motherwell, was Maeda found himself more far out in the left, whereas now kind of possibly with that tweet that you're talking about, he's coming in more. He's almost playing like an inside forward, just in next to Giakoumakis. And then you watch Jota on Saturday. Stevie covered it in the match report. He's all over. He's ran about everywhere and just getting into all these positions and able to get that cross in for the first goal. I just thought some of the play from the front three yesterday, that Ross County didn't know how to handle them.
I think that's really noticeable, and I think the credit there has to go to Ange, because the rigid system was running into a bit of heavy traffic, especially in home games when teams were defending so deep and in numbers. And I think with a bit more fluid movement between the front three, or certainly the two wide guys playing off Giakoumakis, it gives a different problem. The way teams were setting up against us, you could actually probably write down what the pattern of play would be for the first half, and if Celtic didn't get an early goal, it would grow more frustrating. Defence becomes more resolute, and there'll be 8 bodies within that, within the 2 posts, and it just becomes so congested and so hard to create clear-cut chances. I think the key about Saturday was that not only was Giakoumakis' first goal an excellent goal, and the type of movement we've not really seen too often at home this season, was it came early as well, and that really is the key. Because don't forget, in the games that we've played against County and Livingston, both of them have been the foreign teams in the league when we've met them. It's normally you would look at those games and think, Celtic should be winning, of course, but County in particular have been absolutely flying.
You even seen what the projected table from, was it?
I think it's over the last 20 games out with Celtic and Rangers, County absolutely were the form team, and pretty exceptional form at that. So they came there, in a real run of form.
Aye, they've definitely been playing well. You've kept an eye on their rise. Even I'd probably say since they played us, when we get that 120th minute.
Yep.
Winner. But no, I thought they that's kind of what you want to come up against at Celtic Park as a team. It's maybe just going to be a wee bit more adventurous, take a few more risks, because we're good enough and quick enough on a better surface just to pick them apart. And I thought we could have scored a lot more on Saturday, but they just seem to take the foot off the gas, which they're allowed to do it 4-0.
Yeah, they are. If you'd mentioned Jota and his continuing return to form, Paddy, you're right. With the first goal, Jota started the game out wide right, but I think a couple of times I noticed it in the first half when he's out on the left taking corners. For a few minutes, he just decides to stay left, and that's fine. Maeda will stay right for a time. And it's that move which is allowed for the first goal. He's got exceptionally quick feet, just very difficult for a fullback at any stage. And he just finds that space to bring out his feet and he clips it round to the back post where Giakoumakis is there to finish. Mif, how important is it for Celtic that Jota continues to rediscover this form for the remaining 7 games now?
Well, I think it's important because he is the hub of our creativity. You look at the guys that are central in midfield, and of course they do create, but it was noticeable that when Jota had a bit of a lull, it seemed the rest of the team did in the attacking sense. Excuse me. But Jota, for me, is just absolutely pivotal, and I think he plays with a certain enthusiasm. I think the rest of the team really feed off it, and certainly the fans do as well. When you see him in full flow, when you see him taking people on, it's just an absolute joy to watch, and he is an entertainer. So the more that he feels confident to do that, I think the better effect it has on the team and on the fans. I think that was really noticeable at Livingston. The fans really got behind the team that day, and Jota really responded to it. He went at the full-back so many times early on, get by him a few times, and that really lifted the crowd. So you know what it's like when there's a player and that there's that buzz when they get the ball. Jota's one of those players.
Yeah, he was actually involved directly or indirectly, Paddy, with the first 3 goals. So cross for the first one, for the second one he's put out to Juranovic, who's crossed it, and for the third one he's hit the corner, which has led to the goal. So he's heavily involved there, in making a huge difference. One word answer from each of you then. If you can only get Jota or Carter Vickers, who do you take? One word.
Well, I can't answer Carter Vickers in because that's 2.
One name answer, please.
Jota.
Carter Vickers.
Jota. All day long.
Aye.
Jota. Absolutely.
How come?
I just think these are the kind of guys that you love football for. And I think Carter Vickers is very much appreciated in terms of what he's doing, and the fans love him. And he would also be very hard to replace because he's just come in with the minimum of fuss this season. But Jota is the guy you love to see, isn't it? And it's maybe, you won't know what you've got till it's gone. If Carter Vickers moves out and all of a sudden we start to leak goals again, maybe you'd revise that. But Jota's just...
Bearing in mind I'm signing both of them. You made me choose one. That's the only reason I've chosen
them both.
I'm signing both of them.
We get the 2 of them, absolutely. But did you not quote Alex Ferguson earlier on this season?
Probably.
About the best form of attack is defence.
Aye, that's true. I mean, there's a lot to be said for what we're doing. I actually think at times as well, there is not enough credit going to Celtic's backline for this phenomenal record. They've only conceded, I think I repeat it every week now, but they've only conceded still at time of recording 4 league goals all season. It's nearly April.
At Celtic Park.
Yeah, Celtic Park. So 4 league goals. It's another clean sheet there on Saturday. Is it 18 conceded over the piece? I think it is,
so.
of 31 games. That's frightening form, and that's what gives the platform to allow Jota to do his thing. So it's all hypothetical, isn't it? Jota does his thing, Carter Vickers does his thing, and as a combination it's great for Celtic. But just from an attacking point of view, I cannot wait for him and Kyogo to be reunited again. Those 2 need each other, and I need to see it, Mif.
Well, I just can't wait for Kyogo to come back, because I think the team that he's coming back into compared to the team that he exited from, especially when you consider the particular 11 that was on the park the day at St Johnstone and he got injured. He pretty much single-handedly won us the League Cup final, and there wouldn't really be a title race if it wasn't for him. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
He carried a huge burden at the start of the season, and that's gave the team the platform to go on the run that they've went on. So it's just exciting to see him come back into that team, a team that's full of confidence, that's been used to playing with each other, and just to see how he slots in. Where he slots in, like I said, it'll be interesting to see. But maybe get a wee feeling he might play off the right. That's just my own thoughts, because I think there is something kind of building between Giakoumakis and Maeda at the moment.
There definitely is. On that then, Mif, so Maeda, some mixed responses in recent weeks from fans. There's no doubt his work rate. There's never been any doubt on his work rate. He really puts in a shift. Did you see the clip? I think it was in the 90th minute on Saturday. In a game you're winning 4-0 and you're home and hosed. And he is bombing after the right back and bombing towards the goalie. And he looked as fresh as he did in the first minute, which makes it actually a wee bit surprising that he's since withdrawn from the Japan squad. You'll have seen that news today.
That's tactical.
I think so. I mean,
100%.
He's withdrawn in the news. I think they've said his condition is poor. That might be a wee bit lost in translation because his condition is clearly good, but maybe there's a bit of fatigue set in. It might be the player himself. He may have asked for a rest. He's obviously made a big move to a whole new country, and there may be a wee bit more to that.
Well, I think if you look at it, the Japanese season was just coming to its close as well, so I think you need to be realistic in what we're asking the likes of Hatate, Maeda and maybe also Rigucci, because he's not been playing as regularly, but if you've done a full season then you come in, it's going to be difficult. But with Maeda, maybe just a kind of understanding of what's at stake domestically here as well and what he's part of. There could be numerous reasons for it, but maybe Big Ange has just pulled rank.
Is he maybe just trying to settle a bit more as well? Like you kind of say, a new country. I've seen someone talk about this on Twitter. It's possibly a good thing, I know, like for us as fans, obviously, it's the loan with the option to buy.
Yep.
So is he maybe actually just having a wee think about things and try to put things in place for that to happen? Because it is a big move. It's a huge move.
He's barely had time to breathe, let alone put his life in order. It's frantic stuff. It's 2 games a week, and it has been since he came in the door. Only now is he getting a wee window just maybe just sort out some life admin. Get the car insurance sorted, pay his council tax.
Walked down the Clyde.
Exactly.
All of that kind of stuff.
And I think Japan are, they play Vietnam, who are bottom of the group.
They also play Australia.
And they also play Australia.
Which is a crucial game. I think Japan are second in the group, Australia third. So there's quite a lot to play for. It's not a given. So I thought it was quite interesting that they've allowed them not to feature.
Is it not though, if they beat Vietnam, that's it, they're through?
I think it's Australia first though. I'm not totally sure on that. Again, should really check these things, shouldn't we, Paddy?
Yeah, we should, but it's also not. It's not a World Cup qualifiers.
No. Hatate does go. Listen, we'll get into international stuff in a wee bit, but Hatate does go, and there's a chance for him to make his first start for the Japan international team, so that'd be interesting.
I hope he does.
So yeah, absolutely, it's good for him and good for his confidence. But in terms of coming back to Celtic stuff, we've debated there about Giakoumakis, the form he's in, Maeda off the left, different things. Kyogo's made some very positive noises. I think it was speaking to the media back home in Japan, but he's made some very positive noises, as has Ange, and it sounds like he's very close to a return. Straight out, Mif, obviously you've mentioned the possibility of him going wide right or whatever, but if it's a straight shootout for you between him or Giakoumakis through the middle, who would you go with?
I was wanting to talk more about the Asian Pacific qualifiers, firstly.
You got some knowledge?
Sorry, right, I'll move on. God, you're posting these difficult questions, right, Tino?
Listen, a guy like you should be able to handle this.
Well, I think you need to look at it for the point of view that if Giakoumakis is informed, then Kyogo's got to be kind of brought back in gently and also earn the right to be in the team, because, like I said, the team's evolved since he was in it. He was the focal point. There was a time when no Kyogo meant no points for Celtic, or certainly no victory. But like anything else in life, I don't think we disrupt the team for the sake of just one person, as special as he is. I think he just has to be brought back in gently and see how he fits into this slightly amended front line. Like I say, my belief is that there will be room for both of them in the starting lineup, given that Abada has been excellent over the piece, but has maybe suffered from a little dip more recently. Forrest seems to be coming back more like himself, but may actually be better as an impact sub at this moment in time rather than somebody to play for the 90. So I think that tees things up for Kyogo to come in and play off the right. He's going to put a shift in. He's going to do the closing down, much in the vein of Maeda. And I think having that sort of option coming off the right, Jota off the left, but I think that might be the way that it goes.
No Maeda?
Again, I think Maeda is someone who can be brought in and out. But much like, I think it would actually be Kyogo and Maeda swap over more than Maeda and Jota. But that's just what I've got in my head. I don't quite know why. I think Giakoumakis is what we've been crying out for, though, in terms of a focal point and a physical presence. I'm not saying for 1 minute that Kyogo shouldn't come straight back into the team or that he shouldn't play through the middle. Through the middle is clearly his best position. But I think we may now be in a position where we have to kind of accommodate Giakoumakis, because if you score 2 hat tricks in a row, and you're playing at that level, it could very quickly disappear if you drop out of the team, even if it is under the guise of arrest.
Yeah, I mean, Paddy, Ange more often than not starts Maeda. When he's available, he starts games. He's featured off the bench very few times. He starts games and has done since he came in. So I would expect Maeda would start. Jota must start because he's Jota. And then it's just that straight shout between Giakoumakis and Kyogo.
I'm not entirely worried about who's going to cement this starting space though, because you're kind of looking at it. It's potentially 9 games left this season in all comps, right? You're looking at the variation. You want that rotation to keep things fresh. We're obviously hopefully going to get a bit more of a break in between games. But I think there's normally a midweek game with a split. So for me, actually, it's not a bad position to be in order to just look at possibly each game. We give an hour to a game plan and then freshen it up, and we try a totally different setup as well. I don't think these boys will mind being rotated for the remainder of these games for the season. I don't think it's a huge issue that we have.
I think Ange has managed the squad in such a way that guys are, happy's not the word, but they're willing to play their part on and off the bench. The greatest example at the moment is Juranovic and Ralston, who both seem to just slot in and out just now with minimum fuss, Mif. None of them seem to be, throwing the toys out the pram. They just seem to be getting on with it and playing their role. And Ange is clever as well, just in terms of how he uses his subs. Even, for example, against Dundee United last Monday, but 15 minutes to go, he's rang the changes, and he could have brought various guys into the midfield. He's brought James McCarthy in. Now, I don't think James was going to have a great impact on that game the way it was going, but it keeps James McCarthy quite happy, I think. It's that kind of management where he's saying, okay, there's a bit of game time there's a bit of game time there. And if guys come in and start to really impress and make themselves undroppable, that's a different challenge for Ange. But he just seems to have this knack for the man management, Mif, and he seems to have a very harmonious squad at this moment.
Well, it's always the same when you're winning. If you're winning games, it's a happy squad, it's happy fans. Well, most of the time. Still find some things to moan about, but for me, the whole McCarthy thing's odd. I'm on record as saying that for a very long time. But McCarthy is someone, again, whose experience will be vital in the running. So if you've got him in the squad and happy, it's going to have a positive impact in the team. You could say the same for Beaton as well. Beaton has come in at different times this season and filled in well on most occasions, if not all, certainly not all. So that is the key. What we all know is that the way the manager wants the team to play is very demanding, and I think that's why he always references his second season as being more important than the first, is because the guys that are there and will remain there, we hope that'll probably be about 70-80% of that squad, now know what's asked of them. So when they go and they prepare in pre-season, they're going to prepare with that in mind. A lot of the guys would have prepared this pre-season not having a clue who the manager was, full stop. So it's a very different and cohesive summer, we hope, where there's got to be some strengthening, but also, more importantly, the existing players know exactly what's demanded of them, what's required. And Ange will already have made his mind up on who that's going to be and who doesn't fit with that. There'll be the natural sort of turnover of squad members, as there always is. People go, people come in. But that, for me, is the most solid foundation for the squad, is they know what is demanded of them now, week in, week out, and the standards that they maintain in terms of their fitness, but also their performance. So how Ange manages the squad for the rest of the season, I doubt will change. To go back and reference the Kyogo point, I think he'll come in for some games, he'll come off the bench for others, especially given how much football he's missed.
Yeah, and on that note, Paddy, it's maybe it's one we'll speak about in more detail in the weeks and months ahead, but it makes for an exciting summer, doesn't it, in terms of how this squad then evolves to, Ange version 2.0 and Celtic version 2.0 under Ange, because it's already pretty exciting. Apart from all his skills in terms of man management and his tactical approach, his eye for a player, and he's clearly been heavily involved in the majority of signings, maybe not the McCarthy one, but the majority of signings, his eye for a player is ultimately what's got us to where we are, because you can have a system that you want to play, but if you don't have the players to do it, you're snookered. He's clearly brought guys in for key positions. Maeda, being very much an Ange signing, Kyogo, Starfelt's come in, done a solid job. Again, he's maybe up for debate whether he's one of his guys, but Juranovic, various guys have slotted in, and it could be really exciting in terms of how this team evolves in the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's coming back to what we've said. If we go and win this league, which I think that is the goal, 100% for this team, it gives us an incredible summer. It really does, because he gets to look at things a lot closer again. He's been able to get a team ready to fight for us. And actually, we're talking about the summer, but I actually think about these 2 weeks ahead with international break. And obviously, I think we lose about 9 players, first team players over this break. But if you're the rest are going to be at Lennoxtown, yes, probably they'll get their time off at the moment. But I even seen just the thinking from Ange about there's potentially a bounce game getting set up during it, just to keep these guys on their toes. Because if everyone is singing for the same hymn sheet and it's coming into the run-in, you want everyone supporting each other. You want the atmosphere within the training ground just to be harmonious, that everyone knows that what they're pushing for. And I think that, like, even the likes of McGregor going on Scottish international duty, that's when the likes of like Beaton will come in, or the experience of someone like McCarthy that's been part of strong teams. And even the likes of Scott Bain and Joe Hart, they'll have their part to play in order just to make everyone know what is coming up, what the remainder of this season entails. I think we're in a very, very strong position.
Ange said similar, Paddy, in terms of, he says the training intensity is as high as it's been since he came in. Part of that, of course, is having all these guys available to him. You know, minus Kyogo, I don't think there's many injury worries, which is great to see. He quoted James Forrest, or mentioned James Forrest in some quotes across the weekend. James Forrest isn't playing much for Celtic just now. He was injured for the weekend. But he says his levels are extremely high, and that's, you know, having a knock-on effect on the rest of the squad. And you know yourself, Mif, and you know, we speak at different times. We've all been in football at different levels at times over the years, but just having that competitive spirit in the dressing room, knowing that there's somebody there behind you if you're not playing well, you see it happening at all levels of football now. And if, you know, under Neil Lennon last season, the same guy started all the time, whether you were good, bad or indifferent, and we got what we got. Now you've got this whole thing where even Giakoumakis scoring a hat trick couldn't guarantee he starts the next game, for example. And it's just a really, really healthy position to be in. What we'll do before we move on from the Ross County game, we of course need to discuss the red card incident. We'll shortly be speaking to Des Roach. He's an ex-Grade 1 referee. Des is from the Get Involved Ref podcast. We'll catch him in just a second, but I'm keen to hear what you lads think about it first before we go to it, Des. So is it a red card for you, Paddy?
So just the momentum considered into straight leg from the player. He wins the ball, but it's the follow through. I thought it was very dangerous. So on that, for me, yeah, I would say it was a red. Yeah,
the player you've mentioned, or I should have mentioned, it's Kane Ramsey. So he's on loan at Ross County from Southampton. Young guy, 21 years of age. What do you think, Mif? You've got a slightly different opinion, I think.
I didn't think it was a bust tackle, but I didn't think it was a red.
What do you think of the follow through? So he definitely catches the ball, right? That's quite clear to see. But it is the follow through. He doesn't have to go to ground for me. So why does he go to ground? To get a bit more force into it? Maybe. And the very fact that Tom Rogic lasts 4 or 5 minutes more and then goes off injured tells you there's been contact with, you know, somewhere along the lines.
You could hear it for the North Upper as well. Honestly, you could hear the connection. I don't know if it's been his shin guard he's caught or what, but you could actually hear the third it, and that wasn't the ball getting hit. Yeah. For me, it's a definite red. But
I think all in all it's pretty dangerous. So let's hear what Des has got to say. Hi Des, it's Tino here from the Celtic Exchange. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Des, I've also got Paddy and Mif here on the show. So yeah, as I'd mentioned, we're really keen to get your own thoughts as an ex-Grade 1 official on a couple of things at the moment, but definitely the Kane Ramsey sending off from the weekend. So what's your general take on that one?
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. Thanks for reaching out. My thoughts haven't changed from what I originally seen. I think that it was a legitimate tackle that he was entitled to go for. I know people are saying, is it over-aggressive, excessive force? It wasn't. You can't hold back if you're going to go for a challenge. And I'm sorry, but as much as the player's been injured and had to go off, you can't change the parameters of a sanction due to an injury on a player. It's a contact sport, as we've said. I'll say it. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. To me, it was a very legitimate, robust challenge. Very robust, but within the laws.
We've got you can't see him, Des, but we've got Mif nodding along here. So he definitely does. I think he used the word robust as well. Myself and Paddy, we're different. I think the word excessive force, you know, we hear it a lot. That's where it's at for me. I don't think the guy needs to go to ground. I think going to ground puts more force into tackle, and I think ultimately, you know, however the guys approach the tackle, it's led to Tom Rogic being injured, and surely we should be looking to outlaw this from the game. Mif, what's your own take on it, you know, for Des's benefit?
Just that's pretty much how I've seen it. It is a robust tackle, it's a strong tackle, but I don't think he's he's done anything wrong, really. Just he has followed through kind of natural. I don't think he's, put it this way, I don't think he's went to do him, as would be the old phrase you would use. I don't think he's went to do him, is my opinion. I
think, Des, for me, it's the kind of tackle where, as a fan over the years, you love to see it. I know you guys referenced the tackle by Simunovic on Kenny Miller a number of years ago, and as a fan you love to see that, but it's something that I think the game is trying to outlaw, and I just wonder if the modern game allows for those kind of tackles. I mean, out with the, the letter of the law and all that kind of stuff, do you think it's the kind of tackle that should be accommodated in the modern game?
I think the modern game is certainly more sanitised. It's probably an easy way to say it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just old school. Maybe I'm just old. But if you're going to go for a challenge, and I think I referenced it the other evening, I was always taught, if you're going for a tackle, go in with everything you've got, because if you don't, if you hold back, potentially you're the one who's going to be hurt. But yes, I can see it, and I think we've used the expression go through gritted teeth and go, I can maybe understand why people are looking for a red card for it. But as I say, I'll stand by my initial decision. Mm-hmm. I think it was just a good old-fashioned hard tackle. It was instinctive. He's went for the ball. He's won the ball. He's taken everything with him. But yeah, I'm quite happy to put my name to that, and whether I'm vilified for it, hell, I've been vilified for worse. So, but yeah, I'll take that. And I know it's obviously a Celtic podcast, but it's not a red card for me.
Okay, what about just as we kind of finish in this wee section, Des? I think he definitely gets the ball. We've all agreed here he gets the ball with his right foot, but the trailing leg seems to cause the damage, and that seems to be what's caused Rogic's injury. So he has won the ball cleanly. It's the follow through for me, and it used to be back in the day, got the ball, ref, and that's fine. You can clean out whoever you want as long as you got to the ball first. And I just think it's changed from that. Does that change your thinking at all, that the trailing leg seems to have caused the damage?
I don't think, what else could they have done with the trailing leg?
Nothing is the answer, but balance. Yeah, but ultimately it's what's caused the damage. I think it's the force that he goes into, which means at that point he's out of control with the trailing leg. So I mean that's where I'm at. But it's interesting, Des, because the three of us are sitting here absolutely Celtic minded, and we can't agree on it. So it just shows that it's definitely not a cut and dried case. I tell you what we'll do. Well, we've got you on, and it is a Celtic podcast, but I'd be really interested to hear your take on the Morelos penalty, or Morelos winning the penalty against Dundee yesterday. That's as soft as I've ever seen in my entire life watching football. I really could not get it, but again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one.
For me, well, straight away, it's not a penalty. It's not a foul. I would say it was a tussle. Both players were having a wee dance with each other. They're pulling each other. They're pushing each other. The ball's going away. Morelos has obviously jumped straight up and claiming for a penalty.
It's clever for Morelos.
It was clever. I just don't know why Bobby's jumped in there. If that happened in the middle of the park as play was proceeding, you'd be running by the two and saying, don't be so bloody stupid and just get on with it. Mm-hmm. If he's want to cuddle that much, just book a room. There was nothing in it. I can't understand why. And Bobby is a very, very good referee. He has been there for a number of years. He's probably our top referee at this moment in time, which again I've referenced previously. I can't back him up on that one.
Yeah, I'm feeling a bit unwell here, Des, because Paddy's praising Morelos, saying it's very clever.
I'm not praising him, don't worry.
You're singing the praises of Bobby, which wouldn't be something we would do often, but fair points, I suppose. I just think that the two of them are definitely at it, and if anything, Morelos fouls the Dundee defender first. And you're right, though, I think anywhere else in the middle of the park, you just skip by it, it's a nothing incident. And I think for a penalty, you can tell me your own thoughts on this, Des, from experience, but for a penalty, you need to be 100% sure. You can't be 90, 95, even 99%. You need to be 100% sure. And I'm just not sure how accurate Bobby can be there, Bobby Madden, having seen that incident.
Yeah, well, if Bobby's given it, he's obviously convinced in his own mind that there's been there. I agree that Morelos initiated the contact, Jordan McGee. But when I was back doing it, it was always one of those ones. See, if you're given such a major decision, you've got to sell it. You're not selling it just to the players, you're selling it to the crowd so that nobody could have any dubiety that, oh, what's going on there. I think there's lots of dubiety, and the fact that we're still talking about it after 24 hours, and you've seen comments in media, you've seen comments in the newspapers, etc. It's not a penalty. And if there is any point of dubiety, I used to always say to my assistants, if you're putting a flag up or if you're getting me involved through the years, don't tell me you think something. Tell me you know something. If you think, then there's that hesitation. Can't have hesitation when you're given a penalty kick, particularly not for something like that. All you're going to do is you're going to fuel the guys going back to the pub to have a chat about it, and evidently that's what we're doing just now. Yeah,
I think so. And interesting to hear that, Des, that, you'd be looking for that support from your linesmen and fourth officials and, different guys that are there to support the referee ultimately. So an interesting take. Last question, well, we've got you, Des, just a more general one at this moment in time. So every week at this moment in time, the talk on Sky Sports and otherwise is VAR and how much this is going to revolutionise the game here. Just very generally, is it something you're in favour of, and do you think it'll help us or help the refs get more right than wrong?
I think the best way to say it is anything that can help referees and football in general get the right decisions and the right results on the pitch has got to be a benefit. That's what we all want. We don't want. Oh, is it this? Is it not? No. If you can see pictures and get it right, then absolutely. And also, Scotland is now one of the top 10 leagues in Europe. Why are we not using it when every other leagues are using it? Rangers are involved in the Europa League and they're doing fantastically well, which is obviously great for Scottish football and pushes up the coefficient. So if we can get it, but it's got to be used in the right manner. It's got to be there for crucial decisions, and the words clear and obvious are the ones that are being reverberated around all the time. Mm-hmm. But yes, I am in favour of it, but only if it's done right, and it can only be done right if they get the correct education and correct training, and the edicts from FIFA and UEFA are passed down the way in the correct manner.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm all for it, but it has to be done in the right way.
Yeah, totally agree. And it'll be very interesting to see how that all plays out and when it comes in Scottish football. Des, thanks from myself and the rest of the guys here. It's really appreciated.
Not a problem at all. Glad to join you guys. Hope you're all well.
Cheers, Des. Thanks, mate.
So thanks to Des for joining us there. You can hear more from Des every week on the Get Involved Ref podcast. So, all pretty interesting stuff, Mif. Aside from obviously the love in there with Paddy and Morelos and the Gers and the Europa League, that aside, some interesting stuff. What did you think?
The issue I've got with VAR is I've seen a couple of things over the past 2 weeks where it's just still open to debate. I think it does help to a degree, but I don't know if you've seen I think it was Jacob Murphy against Chelsea. But he's clearly getting hauled down. He's clearly getting hauled down the box, and it's went to VAR and they've said no. It's still just a blatant penalty. It's just outright not been given. And then Diogo Jota's goal against Notts Forest. One angle he's at the back post, he looks offside. The other angle they've just kind of straightened up the camera angle, drew the line across and went, oh no, he's onside. And it seems to be starting from different points of the body and all that. I just think, put into the context of Scottish football, it's an absolute
recipe for disaster.
Oh man, it's cat amongst the pigeons stuff.
We've not even got goal line technology
yet. one thing at a time, Paddy. I think at the end of the day, whether you bring in VAR or not, and listen, Scotland need to bring in VAR because you're going to get left behind. Not just the referees themselves, by the way, who won't get the Euros and the World Cup gigs and the Champions League nights. Just to the game in general, if the rest of Europe's, moving forward, and Des mentioned Scotland being, amongst the top 10 countries in Europe, the winner this season will qualify for Champions League, as we know. You need to move with the time. So whether you like VAR or not, you've got to go with it. But at the end of the day, whether you've got VAR officials making the call or just the single official during the game, it's always just down to one guy's interpretation. So whether it's Bobby Madden making a call or three Bobby Maddens in a van, perish the thought. Three Bobby Maddens making a call in a VAR van or however this is going to work. Yes, some porta cabin outside the stadium, I don't know how it goes. it's going to be somebody's call. Somebody will decide, listen, yeah, I've got all the replays. Nah, no PK for me. And you'll just get more uproar, except it'll just take you 2.5 minutes to get upset than instantaneously. So I don't think it's the be all and end all solution that a lot of people think it is, but time will tell as we move forward. Anyway, moving on from that, Paddy, obviously you've mentioned the fact that a lot of our guys are on international duty over the next week or so. There's a fair host of first teamers. So McGregor and Greg Taylor go with Scotland. Near Beaton with Israel, and Abada with Israel under 21s. Giakoumakis back in the Greek squad, so great for him. Juranovic, Croatian right back, as we know. Hatate has the chance to get his first cap for Japan. 2 big games we've mentioned, so Australia and Vietnam, and if they come through them, they should be good to go for the World Cup.
Big game.
Starfelt is involved in a huge couple of games, so he's only got 4 caps, I think, for Sweden. This is his recall to the team, and as we mentioned, you spoke to him after the game on Saturday. They've got a playoff on Thursday, I think it is, against the Czech Republic, and if they win that, it's a shootout with Poland to see who makes the World Cup. So huge games there, and people often criticise international football, and obviously for us, I think, particularly being a Scotland fan over the years, your be all and end all is Celtic and how Celtic are doing, and the big concern is that, yep, guys go away on international duty, but the main hope is that they don't go and get themselves injured. Some people, give it the chat at this time of year, just scrap international football, it's no use to us and all that stuff, particularly if somebody comes back with an injury. But I think, and I'd be keen to hear what you lads think, I think if you're a professional footballer, it's the biggest honour in the game, representing your country, and I think it's only got to be a good thing for guys like Hatate and Starfelt and others that I've mentioned there. It's a real source of pride to go and represent your country, isn't it?
As a footballer, yes. As a fan, I'm totally of the opinion, get rid of it.
No Tartan Army for you, Paddy?
Absolutely no chance.
No? What do you think, Mif?
Yeah, I've got my Timbies and my Jimmy Wig looked at.
You get your kilt on under that desk?
Pretty much. Ready. No, wigs are too short for a kilt,
Yeah, but what do you think about it? I mean...
I know, I love international football.
You do?
I like the tournaments. That's it.
I think if you look at last year, say somebody like Callum McGregor, his level of performance for Scotland was considerably better than it was for Celtic, albeit there were mitigating circumstances for that. That would be a case in point as to somebody who's clearly very proud to play for his national team. For the fans, I agree with what Paddy says. Everybody becomes very parochial in terms of they just want their own team to do well. They're not too interested in stuff that goes on outside that bubble, and I get that and understand it, more so since international football seems to have been devalued just by the amount of money that's on display within club football, and then the kind of growing in popularity, the Champions League, that's pretty much the be all and end all on the stage that you need to be on, probably more so in the World Cup if we're being honest. Whereas when I was younger, quite some time ago, the World Cup coming round just was the big deal. So the balance of power in football's changed in that sense, but I think it's then incumbent on the fans that do care about international football to show that they do. More recently, I took the boys to the Denmark game, and they absolutely loved it. And looking at the boys have kind of got that for me in terms of still supporting Scotland. They see it as a big deal supporting Scotland. So all day long for me, I love the fact that I'm both a Celtic and a Scotland fan. Although again, some of my mates are just not having. How can you support somebody or support a team that's got a Rangers player in the team, for example? A few of my mates are that black and white. I don't really see it like that.
Yeah, I mean, Paddy, you've mentioned that as a fan, it's not for you. But going back to it from a playing sense, you can see how.
Did you play for Scotland?
I did. 10 caps.
Big
10
secret.
caps.
10 caps.
But
Many
you can
goals?
see.
Yeah.
Many goals?
Oh,
He's a goalkeeper.
Well, I let 50 in.
All right.
The cat. But from a playing point of view, you can see what a lift this would give. Yeah, Rio Hatate is going to go out there. He'll be buzzing right now at the prospect of helping his nation qualify for a World Cup finals.
Yeah.
Same as Starfelt. He'll be high as a kite at this moment in time. And that's got to be good. And also, Ange has been asked several times, obviously as a former international manager, he's all for it. A lot of coaches at this moment in time will bemoan the fact that they're losing players to international and, they might get injured or they might be fatigued or whatever. He's the opposite. He says it's the highest honour in the game. And I think, as none of us can speak from experience, but it must be a real buzz to be selected amongst the top 20 odd players in your country.
Of course, and listen, I appreciate it, and I understand the pride that they must feel. I think Ange has said that what you're saying. I've also heard them joke the odd time about as long as none of them come back injured, then it's been a good international break. One of the things I was going to say there, just going back to the Starfelt thing, I'll get that audio up on the social media sites tonight. He's beaming with pride about it, and I think it's a good thing. I spoke earlier on in the season about Starfelt when he came in, how he's maybe just not been a breadwinner as a footballer, maybe just didn't have that mentality in him as of yet, and I think we're now starting to kind of see that in games like this. If they go and do well and they get through, and he might not start, but if he does and he's involved in that team, involved in that setup, and just continuing to improve that mentality, is only a good thing for us. And I think the more trophies Starfelt wins, I think he just becomes a lot more confident. So I think it's definitely a good tournament. A good opportunity for him to go away and experience that culture as well as what he's got here with us at Celtic.
I also think, the guys that are competing, Starfelt, Hatate, and some others, they'll go there and hopefully for their sake they'll get the results they're looking for, and they'll come back, really buoyed by that. But the other side of it as well, it gives guys a chance. Paddy, you'd mentioned before, whether it be, Joe Hart and Bain will do a bit more work together. Ideguchi might work in his fitness. James McCarthy, James Forrest, who's not involved in the Scotland team. And Mif, it also gives a chance for Ange to continue to work with these guys, and for these guys just to, recuperate ahead of what's going to be a really frantic, final few weeks of the season. Yeah,
well, I mean, it's a wee change of scene for them after an intense period in the campaign. There's been a lot of football played in a short space of time, but it goes back to the point. Ange does seem to be good at making use of the time that he's got with the players on the training field, and that in itself is the whole reason as to why the team has done so well, is because he's coached them into being a really efficient outfit. So no, it gives the players that are on international duty confidence, but the players that are left behind will be working on things that gives Ange a bit extra time with them. So no, it's fine by me, the break. We're in a good place. The players that have been called up for international duty, the likes of Starfelt and Hatate, for Starfelt getting recalled, Hatate getting called up and potentially making his debut. As far as Starfelt's concerned, that'll be justification for moving for me. Mm-hmm. He's moved, he's been sold the dream, but he's upheld his part of the bargain, being part of a defence that's been meagre in terms of giving away goals, and he's getting his reward for it. So how does that look? Again, thinking of even getting into next season, getting prepared for hopefully Champions League football, getting in more support, because I think probably a centre-half would be an area where we need a bit of cover, or certainly to upgrade the cover that we've got available for us. So, the mindset that will have Starfelt in for the start of next season, great, and Hatate as well, then becoming full international, that I'm quite surprised somebody of his talents hasn't already been in the Japanese international team, because to me he's just an absolute standout player.
Yeah. At 24 years of age as well, he's featured for Japan's under 21s, I think, and they've got a university team that he's played for, but this will be his first senior appearance. I think it's also very important, just as we move on from international chat, but it's also very important for Celtic as a football club to point to potential new signings and say, you come here, you do your job, your country will recognise it. Giakoumakis is the same. So Starfelt's done his job defensively, he gets the nod. Giakoumakis scores goals, your country comes calling. So it shows that if you come to Celtic and perform, the rewards are there for you internationally. I think that's really important. Aside from the guys that are away with the senior squad, you've also got, as I mentioned, Maeda with the 21s, Matt O'Reilly going to Denmark 21s, which is interesting. Stephen Welsh with Scotland, Johnny Kenny with Ireland, and I think Toby Oluwayemi also with Ireland. So good luck to all involved, and hopefully they all come back safe and well. Moving on from the international chat and back to the Scottish Premiership, Celtic now enter this break 3 points and 14 goals ahead with just 7 games left to play. We know for sure that 2 of these 7 games will be Rangers at Ibrox when we get back, so that's Sunday 3rd of April, and then St Johnstone at Celtic Park on Saturday the 9th of April. If on that basis, how do you think we should now approach this one at Ibrox, and can you see Ange making any wholesale changes?
I think we just approach it the way we always approach it. The game at Ibrox will hinge more on how Rangers approach it than us, I think. They'll either come out and go toe-to-toe, which their fans will demand, and I think is most likely going to happen. So for me, the game will be make or break first 20 minutes. I think whoever scores first will win the game, is my own thought on that, and I think it'll be Celtic. Well, I'm saying that now, hopefully everybody comes back fit for internationals. St Johnstone been struggling a wee bit, although they started scoring again. Callum Hendry started scoring a few goals, and they're kind of bouncing back up. I heard Steve McLean, I couldn't stand him when he played. Steve McLean could not stand him.
Banker for a yellow card, wasn't he?
I couldn't stand him
against us.
But I seen him saying that it's almost like they've been trying to convince the players that they're a good team again after the hellish run that they were on. So St Johnstone's always a tough game. I think the mindset's pretty clear within the squad. It's not going to change now. We'll play our football, and I think Ange's actually quoted as saying that we'll play our football and we win, lose or draw. It's just that simple. As long as he gets the type of football that he wants. And there was a bit of can't remember if it was after the Hibs game, there was a bit of disquiet at the fact that he said that I thought we played our football, and he seemed quite content at that, and everybody was just up in arms. Well, it's a 0-0 draw, so it's not acceptable, but it's just an inkling into how the manager's mindset is, that if he sees the team playing their football, then he'll be happy. So if he's imposing that will on the team and they're going to go to Ibrox and they've got it fixed in their head that they're going to go there and play their football, then I think we as fans just need to be happy with that and be happy to support the team and see what we get.
Yeah, Paddy, I mean, I've asked Mif the question there, how do you think Ange will approach it? We kind of know, don't we? He's not going to change anything that he's done all season, and whether it's Rangers away, Dundee at home, whoever else, away in Europe, he takes the same approach, and I suppose that simplifies it from a playing point of view. You know your role in the team, you know what you've got to do, and he'll just set them up as best he can. He'll have some calls to make in terms of personnel, but I wouldn't expect any great changes to what he does.
No, I agree with Mif and what he was saying about, obviously, Ange's comments after the Hibs game. I was kind of the impression that he was maybe just being kind of cute with the press, taking the pressure off the players, trying to anyway, and then having his own words with him at training or whatever. But I generally actually think he would be happy with the performance now, just kind of the way he's laid the foundations of how his game plan wants to be acted out from this team. And I think that as long as they're ticking that box, I've heard him a few interviews recently. One of the things he had mentioned about was basically like, go and enjoy the game of football. Go and enjoy it. Come off the park, whether it's win, lose or draw. I think it was something that Puskas has passed on to him. Whether it's win, lose or draw, come away from it just knowing you've enjoyed your game of football. And there's maybe that element of his view of the game and what he's taken from it that surely settles a footballer and lets them go and enjoy their game. And I totally get how important it is for us as fans and as players. That's what they're paid to do. But if you're taking the pressure, and it is a big pressurised game, if you're taking that pressure off them, then they're a very, very good football team. And I think they do have enough to go and blow Rangers away like they did at the beginning of February.
Yeah, I clocked that. I was there at that chat about Ferenc Puskas. So basically, Ange's saying that winning's a byproduct. If you play in this certain way, play in this style, winning will come by default. So playing the right way first. Mm-hmm. And I think Puskas said something very interesting, that he said, "Listen, I've lost a World Cup final. It's cool. There's more football around the corner." Yeah. He had a very interesting way of taking the pressure off his players when he was addressing them. And I think Ange tries to do the same. He basically says, do what I'm telling you, play in my way, and you'll get the results and you'll get the rewards.
Aye, simple. And we're seeing that acted out. And it's up to us as fans to support that, to get behind that, because let's not forget, we went to Ibrox last year, Scottish Cup, what was it, 4-0 we get pummeled, or was that the league game?
No, yeah, you're right.
4-0,
4-1.
4-1.
I've done that whole Men in Black thing for last season and just.
But that's, you need to remember though, that's where he was starting from.
I know.
That's where he was starting from.
Huge.
So, no, I mean, he's completely turned it around for us, and we're now going here. We're fairly bullish about how we think Celtic are going to do, and that is as a result of the mentality he's instilled within the whole club, not just the players, but also the fans. Yeah.
Would you accept a draw just now?
I think you accept a draw in the sense that limits the damage, and plus the goal difference means that is it de facto an extra point. So I accept a draw, probably yes, but listen, we just go and take our chances. I don't want to try and get into that mindset of being overly negative. I know I was a wee bit, I wouldn't say fearful, but I was very, very cautious when we originally played Rangers, and I think what Rangers have shown, they've got their own sort of tactics set up for when they're playing the Europa League and things like that, but I think them coming out and going for us is probably the best thing we can get, because it's going to give us more opportunities to exploit. So interesting, it's a really, really interesting game, and also interesting to see how Van Bronckhorst approaches it for Rangers' point of view, because we are only going to play one way.
Yeah. Would you take the draw, Paddy?
No, I think we need to go and win.
I'm the same. I just thought it'd be interesting to put you lads on the spot. I'm sorry, I think I've done that a couple of times.
A few times,
and I apologise. I think I've maybe overestimated
I
you.
think you're getting carried away with this light that's shining down on me as if so you're interrogating me.
In the spotlight. We've mentioned that Kyogo's, touch wood, all going well, nearing a return to fitness. David Turnbull made his comeback on Saturday, and that in itself, is a good thing. Put out a question on Twitter, kind of casually on Friday night, just saying, how much of an impact do we think Turnbull's return is going to have? I was blown away by some of the negative responses on David Turnbull. Really surprised, actually. Now, there's some mixed opinion. There was some nonsense opinions, about how much some fans don't rate him. I think it's only a good thing that a guy like David Turnbull comes back in and offers that competition we spoke of to guys like Hatate, O'Reilly, Roach. Whether he's your top man or not, Ange clearly rates him, and that'll do for me to a huge extent. But I think having guys like him back can only be a good thing, in terms of pushing other guys around him. Certainly Kyogo as well. We've talked about the impact these players being back available, well, maybe having the front three. We've debated Kyogo and where he may or may not fit in. What about the attacking midfielders? So if you're taking it as read that McGregor will sit in the 6, who's your two ahead? Is it Hatate and Rogic? Is it Hatate, O'Reilly? Does Turnbull maybe get a nod for you, Mif? Are you mixed on that?
Probably not just now, because again, I think much like I'd said with Kyogo, he'll need to be kind of gently brought back into the team. But I think Ange was actually quoted as saying as how big a deal it was having Turnbull back, based on the impact it had in the team earlier in the season. So all the opinions in football, as many footballers will tell you, the only one that really matters is your managers, because they'll either pick you or they won't. Listen, last season Turnbull was a shining light, but it was a very, very dismal season. Football fans are so fickle, and they often forget things that players have done. He's been out the team for a while. It's up to him to come back and shows what he's made of, and potentially, he's somebody that suffered for a serious injury before. He was getting used to a new training regime. It was asking a lot of him. He was playing a lot of minutes. Maybe having the wee rest and being away from it and seeing the team do well in his absence will bring him back even more motivated to do well. So I've no worries about David Turnbull. I think technically he's an excellent player. It's just I would like to see him take a few more risks in the final third. I think he plays it very safe too often.
Is that maybe the injury though in the back of his mind? Not wanting to take the risks, not wanting to take the challenge potentially. And I think with someone like Turnbull, you maybe give, if we get this full summer that I've spoke about, that could be very important for someone like Turnbull to kind of just get up to speed with the rest of the team again, because I think injury definitely has hampered everything for him at Celtic. I've been critical of him, but I do then take a wee step back and think about how young he is as a player. And yeah, injuries like that, you don't just come back for him straight away.
So, some guys don't come back from them at all.
No, exactly.
Real credit to his character. I think he's something like 22 years of age. And he's not the funny. See if he's 27, 28 and you're talking about it, you're going, yeah, maybe he's hit his ceiling. I think there's so much potential in David Turnbull. The challenge is now over to him. Ange clearly rates him. He'll clearly give him opportunities to show. And it's over to David Turnbull to show what he can do. He's a real threat from the edge of the box, which we've not had as well. He's good for I think he's Celtic's 4th top scorer just now. He's got something like 9 goals. So he also chips in with some really important goals.
Yes, and I think it's also a feature of Ange's management of the squad that he inherited, is that if you look at the likes of Turnbull, Ralston, Beaton, Taylor, if Ralston, Beaton, Taylor had been sold in the summer, or maybe even in January, I don't know, maybe less so Ralston, people wouldn't have batting an eyelid if they had all gone. But he's kept them in the squad, and he seems to have got a higher level of performance out each of them. So Turnbull, as far as I'm concerned, if he benefits for that, I think Turnbull's had a fairly decent season so far. But if he continues to progress under Ange the same way as the rest of the guys have, then that's just going to be exciting for us. Like you mentioned, he's only 22. Absolutely, he's got his best years ahead of him. Yeah,
and just a last question in terms of that team selection for Ibrox, Paddy. Matthew mentioned briefly there, Tony Ralston. Does he get the nod ahead of Juranovic for that game? Physicality, Brian Kent will be the option probably up against him. Do you sway on that?
Juranovic for myself, just on the basis of the last game at Celtic Park, he had him in his back pocket for me. I'd go with Juranovic on that one.
Yourself, Mif?
Juranovic for me.
I think so as well, but I wouldn't be upset if Tony Ralston gets the nod for any given reason. True. So great problems to have, and we'll see how that plays out. The last kind of key talking point before we wrap up the the episode in general here is the fan base. You know, there's this ongoing debate, as we know, about, you know, Glasgow Derby, away fans allowed, not allowed. Obviously, it was a full Celtic Park, full of Celtic fans last time. I would say that was a huge advantage. It was a pretty special night, you know, brilliant experience, brilliant result. The breaking news at the moment that's just come in is that there will be away fans allowed, but again, back to only 700. So for me, I think Celtic should take the, you know, 7,000 or none at all. I think it's, you know, it's really diluted this fixture. It's become very, very strange, and it's a strange atmosphere for those 700 fans who are lucky enough to get a ticket to go into. But what do you think of that, Paddy? And do you think the 700 will be able to make much of an impact positively on the day?
They'll be heard, absolutely. I think it's probably just the T's and C's of the current season ticket holders that are in that area at the moment, that it's not something that they can really take a ticket off them for. You look at the options that are part of our renewal forms for the area that used to be frequented by them. It would give you the option. You would be told that you're not going to get those tickets as part of your book. And I think because there's season ticket holders in place there at the moment, that's why they can't go back or even go near what the likes of Dortmund are given. Now, obviously Dortmund are given a lot more. I'd imagine that's something that was part of their T's and C's, but it's definitely not been for our game. If it's the 700 that's getting spoke about, that's been confirmed, then that's the beginning of building bridges. And I'd imagine you'd like to think that they would eventually sit round the table and try and thrash it out, because as great as February was at the beginning of February, for me, it's a fixture that relies on that being a spectacle and having those fans in each of the stadiums. Because you love nothing more than rubbing it in their faces when you go 5-0 up or 5-1 up at Ibrox. So I'd love to bring it back.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, Paddy. And if the Glasgow Derby is Scottish football's biggest export, has been for, you know, since day dot. It's the biggest fixture we've got, and it's the biggest marketing tool we've got as well, as you know, export the game. And, you know, obviously there's more interest just now from Australia notably and across Europe, and people are taking notice again. You know, Scottish football's in a pretty decent place, and you've talked about the standard, which seems to be a wee bit better in general just now. But to fully restore it, you know, to what it was, as Paddy says, we've got to get, you know, the big crowds in at Celtic Park and Ibrox. And you'd like to think that the powers that be, and I know Rangers started and all that stuff, Celtic or somebody need to, you know, take the first step in trying to resolve this. And you'd hope that maybe now, you know, if it's maybe, you know, not already taking place, that very soon, you know, some of the people in power will make some calls to try and restore it to what it was. Yeah,
absolutely. And again, it's a very Scottish football thing to do, is to shoot yourself in the foot with your best kind of marketable export. So yeah, to me, just really, really overtly petty, the whole thing. The atmosphere of the game is the most crucial thing, the most crucial part of it on the day. And like Paddy says, when you go into the stadium and, you know, both sets of fans are jawing it out, whether it's at Ibrox or Celtic Park, it's amazing. So no, you want that back. The fixture was special for that reason, and limiting the amount of away fans to a negligible amount, I don't think, whilst it's an appropriate short-term solution because of the reasons that Paddy says.
I guess by the
but I think that would be fair. I would think that would be fair enough to assume. Then, as long as that is part of going back to the previous allocations, then I'm fine with that. I mean, just speaking for myself personally, I'm in the old Rangers end and I take a ticket that doesn't include the Rangers games. But I know that, you know, I know that when I sign up, I do that.
Yeah,
just try to kind of keep the wee man away from the madness for long enough. But that's him. He's in there. So.
Yeah, I mean, good luck to the 700 that go in. You know, as you say, Paddy, they'll be heard, and hopefully, you know, they'll give some comfort to the players and, you know, roar them on the 3rd of April. But hoping that moving forward as well, we can get that fixture back to what it really should be. You know, and I think most neutrals would be, you know, keen to see that. February was a pretty special one, but happy enough to take that as a one-off, and hopefully we can find that resolve moving forward. Mif, as we start to wrap things up for the week, and I'll let you go and enjoy your international break soon, but what's your final thoughts at the moment?
Final thoughts, just I'm happy with where we're at. I'm feeling quite content with where we're at. It's been good to watch, which is just as important as the win. I know at this stage of the season you're mainly bothered about getting the 3 points, but it's also been good to watch as well. So no, I'm very happy, and I'm actually really, really happy for Maeda to be amongst the goals, and, you know, the beats linking up with Giakoumakis. think he got a bit of a rough ride. Seen a lot of fairly dismissive and derogatory comments about him on social media, which I thought were pretty out of order, coming from Celtic fans, by the way. I'm just glad that he's contributing, and you can tell he's valued within the squad. I think that going back a few weeks ago to Taylor's comments as well, all these things help build that bit of continuity and spirit in the squad. So very, very happy where we're at the moment, and absolutely buzzing for an international break.
I can tell. And yourself, Paddy, what's your closing comments for the week?
Yeah, just I think 31 games domestically unbeaten is just incredible. For me, when you kind of look at the almost, I wouldn't say entire lull of form, but just the way we kind of stepped off the gas a wee bit in some of the games in February. But then from the game against Livingston, it's just been really, really good to watch how focused we've been. And you're going with Maeda. I'll give GG a big shout out. I just think the form from this type of player and someone that's just finding himself in the right positions is great. I seen someone the other night, actually was in a bit of a tap with him, comparing him to Bio, and
who was
that a ridiculous comment
comparing Giakoumakis with Bio?
To Bio, aye. So I think he's ate his humble pie with that one as well, to be fair to him. But it's we need to be all in all supporting all of our players for the run in here. And, 2 home league hat tricks in a row. I can't remember Bio doing that.
No, certainly right. He's definitely doing something right. So with a host of first team players now off on international duty, and we'll just be hoping that they all make their way back to Lennoxtown in one piece next week ahead of that crucial league game at Ibrox. It won't decide the title either way, but if Celtic come out the other side with their unbeaten record intact, then they'll be firmly in the driving seat with just 6 games remaining. Thanks to Mif and Paddy for joining me today, and thanks to you for continuing to follow and support the Celtic Exchange. If you're watching on YouTube, do us a favour and subscribe to the channel, and if you're listening to the podcast, please share this episode far and wide with your Celtic supporting pals. These small things make a big difference to what we do. But in the meantime, and as always, thanks for tuning in.